The story begins with a girl named Mary. She enters her house and walks into the bathroom, only to be frozen in shock by what she sees. A man wearing a raincoat is brutally hurting a woman right in front of her eyes. In that terrifying moment, the man turns toward Mary and says, "This is what you like, right?" He shakes his head, and Mary is left horrified because the man standing there is her own friend, James, who is supposed to be in jail. Confused and shaken, Mary convinces herself that this must just be a bad dream. She quickly shuts the door and takes her medicine, trying to calm herself down. But in reality, Mary had only been released from jail a few days ago, after being imprisoned for setting James on fire. Trying to start fresh, she heads to a gas station for a job interview. When the owner learns about her criminal past, he hesitates and asks her to explain. Mary admits it was her mistake and says she has already paid the price for it. Since her parole officer recommended her, the owner decides to give her a chance and offers her the job. Grateful and relieved, Mary thanks him sincerely, knowing how difficult it is for someone like her to find work. Her friend drops her back home, and once again, we see the same disturbing scene from earlier. After taking her medicine, Mary feels slightly better. But then, her parole officer suddenly shows up. Noticing her nervous behavior, he suspects that Mary might be hiding something. He checks the bathroom himself, but finds nothing there. He warns her to take her medication on time and not to talk about her disturbing visions, or she could be sent to a mental hospital. Later, Mary goes for a walk in the park to clear her mind. But suddenly, she sees James again. Terrified, she turns away, only to see her friend standing nearby. When she looks back, James has completely disappeared. Her friend then takes her out for dinner, trying to comfort her. At the restaurant, Mary insists that she saw James and believes he has escaped from prison. But her friend refuses to believe it and questions how that could even be possible. Just then, Mary experiences another disturbing vision, where she sees her friend bleeding from the head. Realizing what is happening, her friend snaps her fingers to bring her back to reality. Now, Mary begins to doubt herself, wondering if everything she is seeing is only inside her mind. When she returns home, she receives a chilling phone call. A woman's voice on the other end says, "You watched my daughter die and did nothing. Now I will kill you myself." Terrified, Mary hangs up, but the calls keep coming. Even after unplugging the phone, the voice continues to speak. Overwhelmed with fear and anger, Mary smashes the phone in frustration. Later, Mary prepares to leave for her night shift with her friend. Just then, thunder roars across the sky, signaling heavy rain. On the way, Mary confesses that she is deeply afraid of rainy nights. As they arrive at the gas station, the rain starts pouring heavily. Inside, her coworker greets her with a smile and explains all her duties for the night shift. Once he is sure she understands everything, he leaves. Her friend tells her to stay safe until morning and drives away. But as her friend reaches her car, a man in a raincoat holding a hammer silently watches her. As she rolls down the window to throw away her cigarette, the man suddenly steps forward and strikes her in the face with the hammer, severely injuring her. He drags her out of the car and abducts her forcefully. Even though she screams for help, the sound of the heavy rain drowns out her voice. Meanwhile, inside the station, Mary steps out for a moment and lights a cigarette, trying to ease her loneliness. But then, she sees the same man in the raincoat walking toward her. Startled, she looks again, but there is no one there. As she walks back inside, an uneasy feeling creeps over her, as if someone else is present in the shop. She looks around carefully, but fails to notice a shadowy figure silently passing by. Just then, a woman calls Mary, asking what time the shop closes. Mary answers politely and hangs up, thinking nothing of it. But within seconds, the same woman calls again and asks the exact same question. Then again and again. By the third and fourth call, fear starts creeping into Mary's mind. As Mary tries to respond, a chilling voice interrupts, saying, "You like watching people die, right?" It is the same haunting voice from before. Terrified, Mary immediately hangs up and rushes to take her medicine, hoping to steady herself. Soon after, a truck driver walks into the store. He looks around, searching for the owner, as if he is a regular customer. Trying to lighten the mood, he jokes with Mary, saying she reminds him of someone he knows. He gathers his items and leaves casually, but forgets his card behind. Mary steps outside to return it, but by the time she gets there, the driver is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, a horrifying figure appears in front of her, a man whose entire body is engulfed in flames. Shocked and terrified, Mary stumbles backward, only to bump into someone behind her. It turns out to be a worker sent by the station owner to check if she needs help. Back inside, Mary tells him about the truck driver. The worker smirks and explains that he knows the man well, saying it is his trick to leave the card behind so he has an excuse to come back and talk to women. As they continue talking, the worker asks Mary about her past. She hesitates, then admits that she has been to jail. Slowly, she opens up and reveals the truth about James, her friend who turned out to be a terrifying serial killer responsible for murdering 35 girls. At first, Mary had no idea about his crimes. But one day, she accidentally walked into the basement and witnessed him killing someone. James threatened to kill her and her family if she ever spoke about it. Out of fear, she stayed silent. Even worse, he forced her to watch every murder he committed after that. But when the 35th girl died, Mary could no longer live with the guilt. That night, while James was asleep, she decided to end it. She set the house on fire, hoping to kill him. But strangely, both of them survived, though severely burned. James was sentenced to life in prison, while Mary was jailed for hiding his crimes. The trauma shattered her mind. Ever since then, she has been haunted by fear and plagued with disturbing visions. She keeps seeing James everywhere, unable to escape him. Hearing all this, the worker feels sympathy for her, comforts her briefly, and then steps outside. A little later, 2 customers enter the shop. As Mary attends to them, the phone rings again. This time, it plays the same eerie song that James used to play before committing his murders. Frozen in fear, Mary quickly disconnects the call. The customers notice her terrified expression and grow uneasy. Before leaving, they mention that the bathroom toilet is blocked. Meanwhile, outside, the worker's car suddenly stops on the road. As he steps out to check, a man in a raincoat appears and strikes him on the head with a hammer. Inside the station, Mary heads to the bathroom. As she looks into the mirror, she senses someone standing behind her. But when she turns around, there is no one there. She tries to convince herself that it is just another illusion. Then, suddenly, she notices a card and strands of hair on the floor. Her heart races as she picks up the card, only to realize it belongs to her best friend, the one who dropped her off earlier. Panic sets in as she fears something terrible has happened. Out of nowhere, a bloody hand grabs her. Mary falls back in terror as a blood-covered woman appears before her, screaming, "Why didn't you save me?" Overwhelmed, Mary shuts her eyes tightly, telling herself it is not real, just another trick of her mind. When she slowly opens her eyes, everything is gone. The bathroom is normal again. Completely shaken, Mary runs out and rushes back into the shop, only to find her parole officer waiting there. He looks at her carefully and asks if she is all right. Struggling to stay calm, Mary says she is fine, while the officer walks toward the bathroom to check things himself. Just then, another customer walks in, wearing a raincoat. The moment Mary sees his face, her blood runs cold. It is James. Terrified, she keeps telling herself that this is not real, that it is just another illusion. But suddenly, the man slaps her hard, and the pain feels real. Now, Mary is completely confused, unable to tell what is real and what is not. She shuts her eyes tightly, trying to escape the moment. But when she opens them again, the man has turned into a woman in a raincoat. Calmly, the woman asks for gas and completes her payment. Then she casually asks, "When does the shop close?" The voice hits Mary instantly. It is the same woman who has been calling her again and again. Overwhelmed, Mary begins shouting at her. Hearing the noise, the parole officer rushes outside. He sees Mary yelling at an innocent customer and immediately assumes that she is losing control of her mind. Mary tries to explain everything, but he refuses to believe her. To him, all of this exists only in her head. He warns her once more and leaves, convinced she needs serious mental help. Moments later, a car pulls up outside. Mary steps out and is stunned to see that it is her friend's car. Confusion and fear begin to mix as she wonders why it is here so late. As she looks closer, she notices something written on the mirror. "You like seeing this, right?" panic takes over, and she runs back inside. Desperate, Mary calls the owner, but there is no answer. She leaves a trembling message saying something is terribly wrong, and she is too afraid to call the police, because if it turns out to be in her head, she could end up back in jail. Trying to find help, she looks outside again, but the car has mysteriously disappeared. Suddenly, an alarm rings from inside the shop. Mary follows the sound to the storeroom, and what she sees freezes her in place. Her friend and the worker are both tied to chairs. Fear grips her completely, and she rushes back toward the counter to call the police. But before she can act, the woman in the raincoat appears again. This time, she is holding a photograph of a young girl. She shows it to Mary and asks, "Do you know this girl?" Mary recognizes her instantly. She is one of the victims James killed while Mary stood by in silence. Now, the girl's mother wants revenge, not on James, but on Mary. The woman suddenly charges at her with a knife. Mary runs desperately, but just as she reaches the door, the woman grabs her and pins her down, trying to kill her. At the last second, the parole officer returns and shoots the woman dead, saving Mary. Breathing heavily, he delivers shocking news. The prison had a power failure, and several inmates escaped. Among them was James. In that moment, everything becomes clear to Mary. James was never a hallucination. He is real, and he is here. Before they can react, James appears from behind and strikes the officer with a hammer. He then attacks Mary as well, knocking both of them unconscious. When they wake up, they are tied up, completely helpless. In front of Mary's eyes, James brutally kills the parole officer with a hammer. Then, he chokes her friend using a plastic cover. One by one, he begins finishing them off. Next, he pours gasoline over the worker, preparing to burn him alive. But just before he can do it, a car pulls up outside. It is the truck driver who had left his card earlier. James steps outside to deal with him. Seizing this chance, Mary and the worker manage to free themselves and quickly grab a gun, taking cover near the door. Outside, the truck driver notices blood and panics. He calls the police, who warn him not to go inside and to hide. But ignoring their advice, he walks straight into danger. James is already waiting behind him. As the driver turns around, James strikes him in the throat with a hammer. Injured and struggling, the driver stumbles toward the door. The moment he opens it, Mary fires the gun, thinking it is James. But when she looks closely, her heart sinks. She has accidentally killed the truck driver. Now, the reality of the situation hits her hard. One wrong move, and everything is lost. The worker takes the gun from her, and they both realize one thing. Waiting is no longer an option. If they want to survive, they have to fight. Realizing they cannot just sit and wait for death, Mary and the worker decide to fight back. But James is already one step ahead. Knowing they have a gun, he cuts the power and disappears into the darkness, turning the entire place into his hunting ground. The worker begins to panic. He is too scared to continue and hesitates to shoot, knowing he only has 2 bullets left. Just then, the sound of police sirens echoes outside, and within moments, the police arrive. Seeing a chance to survive, Mary and the worker carefully start moving forward. But suddenly, James strikes from the shadows and attacks the worker. Terrified, Mary quickly hides behind a shelf, trying to stay silent. Wanting to end this quickly, James turns the lights back on. But this unexpected move works in Mary's favor, giving her a brief chance to escape. Making sure James is not in sight, Mary runs outside. A police officer immediately points a gun at her and starts questioning her. Shaking with fear, Mary can barely speak. She only says, "He is coming. We have to leave, now." At first, the officers do not believe her, but sensing danger, they decide to act. They place Mary inside the police car and get in. But before they can react, a gunshot echoes through the air. James appears and shoots the officer, killing him instantly. Panic takes over as Mary jumps out of the car and runs as fast as she can toward an old house nearby. Inside, she grabs a metal shovel, preparing to defend herself. Moments later, James enters, searching for her. As he turns around, Mary strikes him with the shovel, but the blow barely slows him down. Realizing she cannot win like this, she runs back to the gas station and hides inside the office. There, she notices a mounted deer head on the wall. An idea sparks in her mind. She takes it down, gripping its sharp horns like a weapon. Just as she prepares herself, James breaks through the door and steps inside. With all her strength, Mary thrusts the deer horns into James. The sharp points pierce into him, finally stopping him in his tracks. Without wasting time, she grabs a phone and calls the police for help. But even after such a brutal attack, James refuses to die. Fighting through the pain, he pulls the horns out of his body and slowly crawls toward Mary. Looking straight into her eyes, he whispers, "I love you very much." And then, his body goes still. Mary, exhausted and injured, believes it is finally over. The fear, the chase, the nightmare, it has ended. Unable to hold on any longer, she collapses and loses consciousness. When she wakes up the next morning, something feels wrong. James is gone. He is still alive, and he has escaped. The danger is not over. Stepping outside, Mary sees the horrifying truth. Dead bodies lie scattered, blood trails mark the ground, and the flashing lights of police cars fill the scene. At that moment, she realizes everything she experienced was real. None of it was in her mind. Months later, Mary starts a new life in a different city, working quietly at a hair salon. It seems like she has finally found peace. But one night, as she cleans a mirror, her heart stops. In the reflection behind her, she sees James standing there. He is back. And this time, he is not going to stop. And that is where the story ends.